Well, good morning. My name is Brenda Muikia. I work for WFTO as the Junior Project Officer, and I would like to thank everyone who's joined us this morning. On the panel today, we're excited to have three brilliant individuals in different fields in the arts and cultural field, and I would like to introduce them. So we have Betty Karanja, who's a senior curator with the National Museum. Betty has a wealth of knowledge as far as art is concerned, having worked at the museum for about 15 years now. She is involved in different projects geared towards realizing the decentralization and the decolonization of museums. She has a background in anthropology and a master's in project planning and management. She has been a curator for as far as she has been a curator for the National Museum in Nyeri as well. One of my other panelists this morning is Naftal Momanyi, who is a self-taught artist whose love for fine arts stems back to 1979, where he perused through art books in the National Library in Kisii. Naftal has had his first showcase in the ASK showground in 1978, where he had wooden sculptures and drawings and colored pencil on manila paper. Between 1983 and 1984, he worked with Dr. Elkanah Ongesa, artisting him through carving a large soapstone sculpture that is now the showcase in Caltex Oil in Dallas, Texas. Mr. Momanyi has different accolades, exhibiting contemporary East African arts at the Commonwealth Institution in London, being one of them in 1984. Having collaborated between Canada and Kenya Cultural Exchange Festival between Eskimo Carves and Kisii Covers in 1986. Then we have Mr. Martin Musyoka, who is a fine visual artist, whose background, he graduated with a bachelor's degree in fine art and design from the Kenyatta University. He's based in Kenya at the Karen Village. He works with various forms of art, ranging from oil, acrylic, charcoal, granite, etc., etc. He has exhibited in different shows throughout the country. He works as a freelance artist and exhibits at the gallery space in the Karen Village. His work reflects interest in human behavior and his desire to depict societal and cultural mannerisms. He's currently working on experimental textures and backgrounds on different surfaces. So as you can all hear, we have a wealth of knowledge this morning, and this is going to be an exciting conversation for artists in the field and those who are interested in art as a source of income. So we can jump right into it. Lady and gentlemen, if I could ask the artists first, that's Naftal and Martin, what brought you on to the form of art that you have picked? For Naftal, that's sculpting, and for Martin, visual arts. What brought you to that? What cued your attention to that?
Yeah, on my side, actually, I just came to art by nature, and I just find myself that I love to do art right from the time I was very young, and now I've gone through evolution of techniques, and to the extent that I'm able to produce sculpture in a variety of techniques within the contemporary aspect of it. So it is the spirit.
Okay.
Yeah.
The spirit. And for you, Martin? You're on mute.
we're all born with
Mm-hmm.
that skill, or the talent of being an artist. But it depends on how, as you grow, whether you'd like to maintain to be an artist, or would rather opt into being a creative but in other fields. So I
Right.
think I pursued this direction of where being just an artist who finally has a studio and do his craft. So that's why I'm able to explore and experiment what I do.
Right. And we can see your art in the background, which is amazing. Betty, why a curator?
Well, so for some of us, it really began due to the sort of higher education that we got. As you said, I did anthropology, and for me, then the museum was the closest thing that I could, the closest space that I could work in with that kind of background. And
Mm-hmm.
so, but in the museum, I have really had very many different positions. I've been an education officer. Actually, most part of my work at the museum was as an education officer.
Mm-hmm.
But then, of course, with spaces that needed to be filled, I jumped what most people don't know is
Uh-huh.
that a curator is actually like a manager of a museum. So, um, you get to do all these other things. You get to be the PR person. You get to be
Mm-hmm.
the educator. So you actually need that background to jump onto the curatorial position.
Right.
So I would say it was in the trajectory of movement within the museum.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Again, thank you very much. So I think my next question would be, how do we pass down art to the next generation, seeing as we have children, and the interest that our children have right now is not the interest that we had back in the day. Kids are interested in video games and etc. etc. So how do we ensure that the art that Naftal, the wealth of knowledge that Naftal has in sculpting, or the years that Martin has accumulated in visual arts, or you as a curator, Betty, how do we ensure that we pass it down to the next generation and it doesn't die down with us seated here today?
Mm, that's an
Mm-hmm.
important question. So what's been happening right now is that we're trying to integrate the current situation as is, and we know that right now we are in the digital age. So trying to bring in the interests of these young ones who are more in the digital age than most of us, and incorporating the two, just trying to see the synergies where they meet and how then what is in what we are calling the old can be brought into the new, the digital. So I feel like that's the one space that we are able to bring in and loop in the young ones and just get their attention, because once we get their attention, then we are able to inculcate this art into them. And probably another old school way of doing it is apprenticeship. We are seeing now currently a lot of apprenticeship going on, young kids going to studios, to art galleries, to artists like Elkana and the rest, and just saying we need to learn your trade. We want to see how you're doing what you're doing. So those are some of the endpoints that we can tap into to ensure that then we propagate the art onto the next generations. And also note that art is not just sculptures and paintings. We have different forms of art. You have tattoos, and a lot of people now, young ones, are really going into that kind of art. We're seeing a lot of tattoo studios coming up. Even just putting up dreadlocks is a form of art. We are seeing a lot of graffiti going on. Just today in the morning coming, I saw, is it the Extelcom building along Hill Selassie Avenue with the very nice graffiti as its facade, so instead of just doing normal paintwork, they went on to do graffiti on the wall. So there's a lot of interest. So it's just to tap into that and ensure that we are keeping with the times. So we don't want to force them to do artwork on a canvas. They could do artwork on an iPad. So yeah, I think now would be probably the way to go.
Right. So I'm playing my role in art.
I know, I see.
Naftal, how would you ensure that you pass down your craft to the next generation?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Fortunately, all my children really love what I do, and all of them during the holidays, they normally come and work with me at the sculpture yard, wherever I do my sculpture. So
Mhm,
they are part of me, and they normally assist me a lot during my sculpting process when they are available during the holidays.
mhm.
So they love what I do, and they also take part of the work itself. So what I'm seeing is that they are quickly learning to become sculptors, and I'm happy with that.
Okay.
Yeah,
So yours is apprenticeship. You teaching the next generation.
yeah, already.
Okay, okay. Martin, anything from you?
I'd say the same thing. Also, I think with the cropping up of a lot of art spaces, and generally not it just being a wall space, where it has to be well defined, like of better structures. So artists have been able to have their own spaces where, like where I am. So it's been a good avenue for encouraging other artists. So you also find like once in a while I have walk-ins of people who come into the studio and they're interested and they have the skill. So I freely share that with them, just to encourage them. Also with tech-wise, every time I post my work online, someone will see something I've done, and I'm always willing to share that information because that's interaction. Also shows the openness of wanting to share and learn. Because I believe, as I always say, artists need to learn as well. Yeah, so
Right.
it's always like an exchange, and this really helps those who are maybe less privileged to get that knowledge. Yeah, so I believe, yeah, technology has helped as well.
Mhm. Right. And in speaking about the new generation and having different interests, have either of you felt the need to modernize your art? Um, is there a need to make it more appealing? If I excuse my language, I hope I can say that, just to try and capture the interest of the other generation, because fairly speaking about it, what my parents were interested in as a form of art is not the same thing that I would consider art, or maybe our interests have changed over the years. So, is there a need to modernize art, or do we need to stick to the old, forgive me again, to stick to the old ways of how art was done? So, I think I would start with the artist. Mr. Momanyi or Martin, whoever is ready.
I think I'll have a go.
Okay.
So far art has diversified over time, and I believe it's not just about, as we say, painting, sculpting, all those basic forms. Like people just okay, what is art? So it's draw me, paint me. I think like even having social events, you have people who plan out spaces, in
Mm-hmm.
one way or the other, interior designers as well. Uh, I see with time, there's more recognition for need for other professions now. Actually, now people get to know, oh, this is why we need an interior designer. This is why we need a landscape artist. And in overall, art has been appreciated in Africa. And I think in simple ways that most people don't realize, like even the same simple aspect in every house, you'll find a portrait of the father and mother. So that shows already people accepting photography from all the way in those days long ago. Yeah. And now you see, even with calendars, you appreciate you'll have a good calendar because it's good graphic design. That the element of that. It's just that now people are actually now realizing, oh, my child can design. So they are an artist as well. Even you see, even in the management issues, in a very creative way to that passes the the employees. So you also find it's a well creative working space. So that's why you find an organization will run even more because of the team that they have. So without all that creativity, I think we wouldn't be where we are without art. So yeah, art has diversified, and I think now people are getting to know that they're actually artists or creatives in one way or the other.
Right. Mr. Naftal, modernizing art. Do we need to do that? Is it necessary?
Yeah, modernizing art is very necessary because apart from inventing a lot of techniques that are very individual according to someone's experience, we also need to look at the way we capture and express ourselves through art. Because we began by expressing about our traditions there before, but then culture actually is transformational. It keeps changing, and that is how art itself also keeps changing, because we need to capture the current way that people, the way they express themselves, the way they live, the environment we live in, and that's how art also keeps changing as the way the culture keeps changing. So it's one way of recording the events, the transformational changes in art and culture through what the current environment expresses itself. So art is about people, it's about how we live, it's about what we do. So the more we change and the more our artworks change. And that's how we record history through visual form.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Betty, is there a need to modernize? Are you seeing the trend change between how it is now and how it was 15 years ago?
I want to concur with the artists because, again, we are living in different times, different generations. Things keep changing. The way we consume the arts it might be different. Like this guy called the Salt Bay. It's a whole dining experience. People would just go him just for his signature salt sprinkle. So I mean, as in that is an experience in itself. Just like what Martin was saying, even interior designers now are starting to get recognized as artists because it is an art form. It is a way of expression. So we are seeing a lot of acceptance, probably a lot more than what was before, and then that is enhancing then the change, So definitely we art will change. Not just the people who will definitely go for the traditional forms of it, the sculptures, the canvas, art on canvas, but of the consumption of it is changing, and more people are accepting other forms of art as art itself. So yeah, it's definitely we are seeing a change, and the change is definitely going to be there for long, and in the end of it, we might see that now the sculptures and the whatnots become the fossils, and then people have moved on to the new
Right.
forms and ways of expression. So it's these are interesting times to be in, and just watching the trend and seeing how these young ones are taking it and where they're the next levels that they are taking it to.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And for anyone, for our audiences or guests, our audiences who are listening to us right now, I just want to remind you that you can send in your comments, send in your questions. We will tackle them to the best of our knowledge. So let's move to COVID, that thing that hit all of us, and we are still trying to adapt differently. So I would ask, we seem to have lost Naftal. So I'll ask Martin, how did COVID impact you as a business, a small business? Did you, how was it? Have you had to adapt? If so, do you mind sharing what those adoptions that you've had to put in place are?
Yeah, as you've said, 2020 was one of those years. I think in early February, when everyone was still figuring out, is this gonna be for a while? What's gonna happen? And then now March came in, and everyone is like, all right, so now we have COVID, and everything, pay cuts and before people are laid, same thing with the art sector. So, because we depend, because I've decided to go on the line where I'd like my art first of all to be purchased by people close to me, appreciated by everyone who's close to me, because I believe I involve the community and everyone around me. So my appreciation of artwork is as close as it gets, closer to me, person wise. Also, I feel like if I'm selling an art piece, it's I need the client or whoever is buying it to feel also they're part of the whole art thing. So with that, now people are not getting paid, and even clients who are still making their monthly payments, and they're saying, "Oh, we have to forfeit this to later on." So I decided to make smaller artwork, like A5 size, A4 size, because in the end, as we say, economies of scale. If you're not selling the huge, like let's say if you're not selling a car, you'd rather start selling spare parts because people will still need that. Yeah.
That's
So
true.
I think when that hit me, I decided just to, and I made it more of a consistent thing to do. Come to the studio early in the morning, do at least 4 or 5 pieces in a day. The 4 or 5 size. And also, one thing I think 2020 kind of made me become now realize that actually being an artist, you have to learn your craft properly. So with that, I knew like marketing, is was one of the things I was very shy about. So the first simple thing I did was just share my works as soon as I paint, just post it on Instagram, and the engagement I got from that, because people now are more looking into visual, so they see, they like, they want, they buy. So
Right.
that's the policy I did. So, and I always made sure, because there are those algorithms for one to figure out how to sell. So now those are things I had to learn. So like in the morning, if you post up an image, and then around midday or after lunch or when people are free. So with that algorithm, I was able to have more interaction with people. And
Right.
someone was like, I've seen you've been working a lot, so let me give you work. But you see, it's from the consistency, and I learned that it's not just saying there's no money. Because I say your clientele will always be based on whom we interact with. So if you choose to look for those who have money, you'll find them. But if you keep saying there's no money, it's really going to be a hard time. So I think for me,
Right.
2020 taught me now to be an all-round artist, not just painting and thinking the work will take itself to clients. So with that, I was able to engage online with people. So yeah,
Okay.
that's how 2020 helped me. I was able to wave through it. Yeah.
Okay. And I guess you've captured something that I think upcoming artists need to hear and grasp more often. That if you're not selling the big pieces that cover walls, just start small. Do coasters, and I think that in itself is wisdom. Betty, is how was COVID for you guys?
Yeah. So again, we all know how it hit, and it hit hard. Um, but so again, it's just about being adaptable and finding the people, finding the market. So we realize that, for example, Instagram is really a good business model. So, throw whatever you need to throw in there, and then just let people then flow with that. See, the thing about that is that it needs disposable income. It's not a basic need. So you have to sell a little bit extra hard for you to be able to get your market. So just being that adaptable and knowing, hey, so this is not going to work the way it's been working all along. So just like Martin says, if we need to reduce the sizes, if we need to sell the artworks that go for less than 10,000 as opposed to the 100,000 ones, then that's what we are going to do. Of course, it was difficult, and we're seeing people holding on a little bit more to the little money that they had, because no one really knew it's kind of uncertain, how this is going to pan out. So we are seeing a bit of people, not buying as much as they would on normal days. but with these adaptive changes and just trying to work around those, reducing the cost, reducing, taking it out more to the people, then we are seeing at least there's some hope. There's some hope.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And in that, and speaking about alternative forms of income, Martin, do you offer art lessons, or is that something that Betty would advise upcoming artists and artists in the field to look for alternative methods of earning a living? If I don't sell canvas today, should I then opt to find 2 or 3 individuals who would like to learn how to paint? Because I don't know if Martin has seen it. I've seen this trend where I think it's called sip and paint,
Yeah,
where
painted.
the
Yeah, wine
that
and sip.
one that one
Yeah.
could we talk about that a little more, about alternative forms of income?
Yeah, I do offer art classes. So apart from offering to those, like passing down information, without any charges. I know that those who would like, private sessions, and I go to homes, and because of also COVID, people are shy coming into the space. So I offer those. So also it's one thing that has helped me learn as an artist, because especially young ones, because I offer classes for, let's say, from the youngest around 4 or 5 years old to as old as anyone can hold up a paintbrush. Yeah. So it's helped me also as a creative, not just seeing the only way I create, but also, as I said, it's always a learning process. It's not just me as an art tutor or as an art teacher imparting knowledge, but that from also the student, they'll do something different, and you'll see it's a creative side. So with that, I've been doing lots of them. Like at least I dedicate 3 days for art classes, and then the rest for my own practice. So yeah, it's
Right.
been one of the things that have helped me. And also it's also building connections, because you never know who you'll be teaching, and yeah.
Right. Right. Betty?
Mm. Yeah. So again, being adaptable, and like Martin said, I find that especially in this young generation, you find people have sort of double-sided outlooks of their art. So they would go and do the traditional artwork on canvas, but then come back and design for you this beautiful poster, or come design your house. So still using the artistic background that they have, but now creating a lot more portfolios than they originally would have. So then they have little niche markets that they are tapping on, so that then you're not just relying to sell on your 10 by 10 canvas, but you have
Mhm.
this other thing that you're doing on the side. So yes, there's a lot of that going on as well, that the people artists are trying to just go out there and become as diverse as possible.
Right.
Again, I've seen also a lot of trying to, like what you're calling the sip and paint. We have a lot of versions of that. I've seen there's someone who does what we call art in the park. So again, just to call on to people to try and be as diverse as possible, while you're also tapping into individuals' need and want to get art and create art. So adaptability really has to be key in these times and days.
Right. So
Yeah.
for the artists out there, the thing is adapt, adapt, adapt.
Yeah.
Figure out, learn ways to make yourself relevant in the moment. Let's talk about Africans and their patriotism. I think this is actually for both of you. Do you say that Africans are patriotic in their buying? Would you say that it's better in the global north, or how would you describe the buying local and the buying international?
Um, Let me go then. So
Okay.
In as far as Africans being patriotic, when we're talking about Africa in general, West Africans are probably more patriotic in that sense. You know, they would go out in their big gowns and you know, you find a lot of sculptures and things in their houses, as opposed to say Kenyans and you know, East Africans in general. Our uptake of art has been slow, if I may say so. We have very few people who can say they're collectors. They're really just countable, probably even on my one hand. The rest of us probably would go and you know, just get a piece at you know, during traffic hour, or go to Masai market and you know, we are happy with that, or just do our little Kenyan, you know, bangles. As opposed to the global north, where we see even, you know, people you know, giving in to museums and to art galleries, and you know, just contributing a lot of money for those spaces. So I feel like, but I also feel like we are getting to a space where Kenyans especially are starting to appreciate, you know, art and the use of art in different spaces. So we are getting a lot of artists getting commissions to do, whether it's sculptures in private homes, artworks in offices. So with that trend, then we are seeing a bit more uptick in art. Yeah.
Okay. So I think for Naftal, who's joined us again, the question was: are Africans patriotic in their buying or their consumption choices as far as art is concerned, or is it better in the global north? So I don't know if you or Martin want to take it up first.
Should go first, or yeah, Naftal can go first.
Go ahead, Naftal.
Yeah, on the side of consumption of art in Africa, I think quite a number of those people are able to buy artwork for their homes. They rarely buy, because quite a number of those people who travel abroad, they normally buy artworks abroad, and maybe those artworks they buy abroad were purchased from Africa. So they just want to feel that this water reminds me that I was in London sometime. So what we actually encourage is that if they can be our first consumers, then the industry can grow, because when you buy the artwork that is made within your locality, and then you promote the people within the locality. So that is not actually what is happening. Most of the people who buy, so now about our industry, we normally rely on tourism, but then the problem is that the Chinese counterfeits that are flooded into the country is now becoming a problem for us to do the marketing of our art in this country. Right. So the people who used to buy from us mostly are tourists. The local people, they rarely buy. And when they want to buy something, especially those who travel outside the country, they buy something from abroad to make them remember that they were in a certain particular city sometimes back. So that's what the situation we are in. So the local market is not properly promoted.
Right. Okay. Martin?
Yeah. Quite true, but as an optimist, I want to believe at least we are trying, and the awareness of art, it's growing. And I believe also as an artist, because I'm as more of an optimist, I try and all make sure that at least my art is appreciated first at home, and I've seen at least with every household, and I'll say at least people will get something. It doesn't have to be a canvas painting, but you'll see people will collect small pieces of sculptures, done, the ones that go for less than 500 shillings or $5, people will at least, there's that fact that they know, they see, and they appreciate it. They won't buy for the big pieces, but I think we give it time, there's more engagement, I can say, with art, so that's a good thing. So maybe as an artist, because of the practice of the years I've been in, I've seen that grow. So there's growth in that. So, and we can all remain hopeful. But yeah, we we are still being patriotic about it. And that's why you've seen these artists are diversifying their work. So if people can't afford it, people are doing prints, people are doing like, the coasters, the caps, t-shirts. So then you can see also corporations and organizations are taking in, especially young artists, like the Telecom building in Nairobi. Artists are being given opportunities to have their works in, and believe me, if you do follow up with the artists, you can see they've been given more commissions after that. So I think not everything that hits a limelight um, that is not shown, shows that you're not appreciating art. But if you just look in keenly and do your research, you'll find that actually there's art being appreciated. So I think um, it doesn't have to be the locals who are really appreciating, but anyone who's in the power to make even that art more visible to everyone. Because now everyone will mention this like telecom building, other buildings around the space, around Nairobi and other counties. You'll see there is that. So I can say we're getting more patriotic about that. I think artists have been appreciated more. Yeah.
Okay. And I can see in the comments, Martin has a fan, and I have a question here about, is it possible for the African artists to do a small tour of their studios for those who are abroad? So I don't know, how do you and Naftal think of that? So virtual tours of your studio, just to show those who are not able to come to it physically to be able to appreciate your art. Sorry, Naftal, you're on mute.
Yeah, bit again, please. I didn't get you.
So I'm saying there's a comment here from someone in the UK saying that they would be interested in virtual tours of your studios. So this is for people who are not able to physically come to your studio and appreciate your art. Would that be something that you and Martin would be interested in? Having virtual tours for people to appreciate your art, to see what you're doing?
Yeah, we'd love to have that kind of system so that we can be able to expose our art to the world outside.
Right.
I think, yeah.
Okay.
I think I'll do that. I'll ask my studio mate, in a few to help me. So I'll just lay out artwork later. So when I'm ready, I'll let you know. Yeah.
Thank you. And I want to write on something Naftal brought to our attention. Counterfeit. For the artists in the house and for Betty as well, how would you recommend that artists secure their work? How would me as an artist protect my art from being plagiarized? I don't know if I could use that. For me to protect what I have created.
It's actually quite the difficulty because the people who produce our work, actually, once they find a photo of your work, they can recreate the work on their own systems. Like when they get the photos of our work in China, they can reproduce them using any material, including plastics, and then they fleet them back to Africa. That's how our local market is actually being polluted in a way that we can say we cannot be able to market our original art here.
Right.
So it's really difficult because just when they get a photo, that's what they take and reproduce.
Okay. So I guess from what I'm understanding from Naftal is, for the buyers out there, for the art aficionados, artists are pleading with you to try as much as possible to buy your art from the artist himself, not to go for the cheaper versions that were not necessarily created by the artist himself, and then thus hinder the source of income that they are relying on. So I guess the onus is on us to try and authenticate the art that we're buying, try and as much as possible to to do right by the artists themselves. But is there anything you want to add on that?
No, I agree. I agree exactly with what Naftal has just said, because what happens is that we want to buy cheap. We want to get the genuine, but at a cheaper price. So I think then for us to even want to support these artists, we just go and we know Naftal's signature, because they always have their signature at the bottom there, right? So ensure that what I'm not a counterfeit from whatever source. So it's just to do due diligence, go to recognized galleries, go to the museum, just ensure that your sources are right. Then in that way, one, we are supporting our artists, and two, we are buying genuine and
So buy genuine is what is being echoed across.
Sorry, did I lose you?
No, don't worry about it. So I guess I'm just reiterating what you said. So authenticate your art, make sure that the sculpture that you're buying is something that Naftal created, or the art that you're buying is signed Musyoka at the bottom, so that we're able to give dues back to whoever created it. I have a question here. What avenues are there for upcoming artists in Kenya? I think I will pose that to all of you. So I think the question is, for upcoming artists, where would you recommend that I showcase my art?
For the upcoming artists,
Mm-hmm.
I think the proper way to market our art is through art galleries and the exhibitions. But then the problem that we have in Kenya, especially, is that most of the commercial art galleries collapsed during the time when the counterfeit art products started flooding from China. So we hardly have sufficient art galleries that we can be able to showcase our art. So that is the issue that we are engaging the government, if they can formulate laws that can ban the importation of those counterfeits, so that we can be able to regain back our market, and then we can have the reemergence of commercial art galleries where artists are supposed to market their art. So without proper policies on the ground to ban the importation of those flooded counterfeit art products, then we could not be able to have the commercial art galleries that are supposed to market our art. So that's now the problem. So you find quite a number of artists have a lot of works in their studios, and they don't have any place to market them, because we don't have those. We don't have those commercial art galleries that used to exist in Nairobi. So that's the problem we have. So it begins from the government. Once the government establish laws that ban those importation, then we can start regaining back the local art market for local artists. For example, if you go to Letter House in Nairobi, it's full of prints from China. So now it is very hard.
What house?
Letter House in Nairobi.
Okay.
Yeah, and many other places. That's just example.
Yeah.
So they have quite a flood of counterfeit. They are actually prints where Chinese download works of professional artists that are posted on the websites. They use very powerful machines. They print them using canvas, and then they float them to Africa.
Right.
So now, a genuine artwork, say Martin is painting from his studio, the original artwork, he has incurred a lot of expenses buying materials and tools. He has spent a lot of time trying to make up his painting. it cannot sell 1,500 like the print from China. So that's how the economy of the industry of visual art is actually collapsing in this country unless there's something to be done.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So original artwork is something that can sell 300,000, 100,000 or something, depending on the size and the quality of the work and the background of the artist. But then you find a very large counterfeit product from China is selling at 1,500 shillings. So now tell me if the artist from the studio can sell that value.
Right.
That's the problem we have, yeah.
Okay. So I guess the point is for art buyers, try as much as possible and get your art local, authenticate your art if it's Naftal who's made it or if it's Martin who's made it. Let's try and support our local artists to the best of our abilities. Martin, where would you recommend that upcoming artists showcase their work? If I don't have the financial capabilities to have my own studio, but I have pieces that I have lying around in my house, where would you recommend that I showcase my art?
So Naftal has mentioned the old traditional way we've always had of galleries, and there's also the all commercial spaces, and the other mostly where you've seen everyone been doing it online. Okay, so I'll try also champion for that, because I think the engagement, because people have been spotted by galleries on Instagram. They want to know, as an artist, what are you doing? What are you creating? What are you up to? So that also, it's a good form of engagement. So I think for those who cannot, because at times if you're in Wajir or you're far away and you don't want to carry all your art pieces, but you've taken good photos and you have the dimensions, it's easy. You post there, or you just send to any galleries, and I'm happy at least most galleries are able to at least look through your work and then give you ideas and suggestions as to how to go about it. So also, it's also for the artists not just to expect that things will just happen. For them, just being an artist, you have to reach out, you have to do your search and research and know how to engage more with. Also, with this, it's where you want your work to be. So if you want it just to be always based with like online, you'll always have an online audience. If you want galleries and you're always constantly looking for them, you'll always get that. Yeah. So basically, artists to go the extra mile to look for their own platform as much as they are aware of it. Yeah.
Okay. So for the upcoming artists, you've been asked to network, find ways that you can promote your art, if it's online, if it's from other art galleries that you can showcase your work. Martin has reiterated that if your art is good, someone will notice you. So in as far as art is concerned, Betty, how would you say art ties into our cultural background? How do we ensure that we don't lose our culture through art? Or how do we ensure that we give lifespan to art through culture, or vice versa?
Okay.
Yeah.
So there are so many forms of art. Even just pottery, we get pottery that has artwork on it. Like I said, body piercings. These are things we used to do a long time ago. It's just that right now probably we have changed the way that we do it. So we can tap into all those things and just perpetuate the art then through through doing such things as say pottery, or maybe even the way we design and build our houses. That just thinking about it, there's so many ways of we can tap into art and just perpetuate it further, and hence then we don't lose our culture. Music is another form of whatever of culture. We have cultural festivals that we have going on, say the Loyangalani Cultural Festival, the Lamu Cultural Festival. All those are means and ways through which we can continue propagating the art and culture, or art through culture, so that then we don't lose out on it and we don't miss out on the benefits of it. Because again, we are coming from this point where culture has been demonized so much that we are losing out on that and going Western. But so if we continue propagating such things, then we are able to sort of hold on and hold back on our culture and just perpetuate it for the next generations to come.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So for the artists out there, leech on that thing that is cultural and incorporate it to your art. In as far as government help is concerned, Naftal has been very vocal about how art is being counterfeited. So I think I would ask the three of you, are there any recommendations that you would have for government or NGOs that support artists in and around Kenya? Is there any recommendation that you have for them as to protect your art, to ensure that there's longevity in your art in as far as that goes? How would you recommend the government to protect that thing that you have spent 15 years for you, Martin, and for Naftal, I can't even count how long. But what recommendations do you have in as far as government and NGOs are concerned to ensure that your art lives on? Sorry, you're muted, Naftal.
Yeah, I'm muted.
We can't hear you. You're still muted.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that everything begins with the formulation of laws that are what is protecting and guiding, providing guidelines on how the operations of a particular industry should be carried on. So in the side of the visual art industry, we are yet to see what the policies are in place from the government that provides guidelines on how we operate and how to protect the industry. And also for example, the other question you asked about how for the emerging artists, the government needs to spend quite some money within the sector or organizing promotional activities for the artists. And for example, there's quite a number of events that are global art events that Kenya never participate. Global art events like the Venice Biennale and many others, Kenya never participate. So now this becomes a hindrance for local artists to promote their art, to showcase their art to a global market, so that they can be able to expand their economic livelihood. So for the government, first of all, they need to formulate laws that ban the importation of counterfeits to Kenya. That's where we want them to begin from. And then they provide grants for the artists to promote their art wherever the events are organized globally, and many other issues. So there's a lot the government needs to do for the sector that they have not done. So that's where we begin from.
Okay.
Yeah.
Martin?
So echoing just what Naftal said, but besides that, we're all part of the government. We are the government, and as artists, forming organizations where you're able to, and I believe Naftal is part of the Kenya National Visual Artists, and I also know other artists have formed Association of Visual Artists and Creatives of Kenya, So with those organizations, it's easier because I know at times when it comes even to the legal work, a single artist it's not easy for you to battle, let's say if a company or like a Chinese company has printed you, not only Chinese or anywhere else in the world, someone has printed your work. Yeah. So I believe having the right people with you, fighting for the same cause, it will be easier. So, and I know artists are trying all the level best to make these organizations work. So it's also for all the artists to get on board on the same, so that we all have one front, not just saying government do this, government do this for us. So this organization, I've seen the work. I know, like KNVA, Kenya National Visual Artists, has done something for artists. I don't have to spell it out all here, but I know I've seen what they've been able to do. So, and also the other organizations coming up, they're doing their very level best. Also, artists just being having the know about the legal framework, just knowing, it's not all about I'm painting, I'm a painter, and that's it. You have to know how to protect your work. So with all this, it's a better way to fight for, the cause of being an artist. Yeah.
Right. Betty?
Yeah, so I agree. I mean, as in coming together, that's the first step for anyone. I mean, as in the government does not know Martin on his own, neither does the government know Momanyi on his own. But if they come together in this organization, where then they are registered, and they're able to channel whatever issues they may have, and then the government may also be able to channel back through the same organization, it becomes easier for them, even just visually, and just getting the numbers to be able even to advertise, to be able to say go to Venice Biennale. Organization is always the first step, and especially when you're dealing with the government. There's no way the government is going to say, hey, I'm going to help Martin by himself. So that is the first thing I would say that artists in Kenya really need to do. And then so the next thing is for the government probably to come up with little projects. So like last year when COVID came, I know our ministry gave out commissions to several artists across the country to just go out and do whatever artwork, mostly graffiti, to create that awareness to the public. So those, again, that's something that I know can be done and should be done, and maybe so it's for the government now to see how sustainable that can be done, because that was, I think, a one-off project. I don't think they're going on with it, but in that same spirit, to create a sort of kazi kwa vijana, but now kazi kwa artists kind of situation, where then artists then know they have a continual propagation of their work. And also when they're in those little organizations, it will be easier even for big organizations to come and commission them to do whatever artwork for them.
Right.
So it becomes easier. And then now for the general public is for them to know that if they need to say authenticate an artwork, we have a lot of resources and resource persons, like an art curator at the museum would be able to tell you, this is authentic work. Come, you can buy that for whatever price, and this is not authentic work. So I was just trying to look that back to the conversation earlier of getting counterfeits and how to go about it.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess almost in closing, so I've heard the three of you say almost the same thing. For the government to protect artists, but the one thing that has stood out right now is artists to join organizations that would then protect them, because your voice is louder when you're in a group. So I guess the question for me right now is, what associations, apart from, I think it's Kenya National Visual Artists Association, KNVAA, what other organizations would the three of you recommend for upcoming artists to join to protect their art, to learn more about what they can do in as far as protecting their craft is concerned?
There's AVAC, so which is
AVAC.
Association, AVAC, so it's Association of Visual Artists and Creatives. So they're rolling out membership. It's countrywide. So, and I know it's of like-minded artists. So probably the younger. I know as much as there's Canva, but also AVAC also tries to figure in about the younger artists as well. So, and I'm sure all the creatives involved in that are trying to their level best to make sure this is also a platform that makes it encompasses all those artists who feel like they've been left out, or probably they don't want to join one or the other for a certain kind of reason. Yeah. So AVAC has been fronting for that too. Yeah.
Okay. So AVAC is the name.
Yeah.
Betty, any other association that you would want local artists to look out for?
Personally, I do not ascribe to any. We actually recognize all of them. So whichever organizations that they decide to join for whatever reason, maybe it's a sculpture organization, or it's a visual artist, or it's like what he says about the creatives. For us as the museum, we recognize all of them. So it's just for them, once they are registered and once they are duly formed, to make themselves known, in our space, then we are able to support them in whatever way that we can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Momanyi, are there any associations that you'd want the young artists to look out for?
Yeah, we encourage for more formation of associations, because the organizations are based on a particular group of interest. And the good thing is that the Kenya National Visual Arts Association is accommodating all those other smaller groups inside, and we actually allow them to join.
So before Naftal comes back on, we have a comment on YouTube. So I guess for that visual artist who said we need to know the need to unite. Numbers are key, exactly. So numbers are key. Upcoming artists you've heard from the veterans' mouths. Join an association. Your voice is better heard that way than it would be by yourself. I think before I give you closing statements, Betty, you mentioned something about government incentives. How do upcoming artists look out for those? Where are they advertised? Where can you look out for them? So where would you recommend upcoming artists look out for such incentives?
So again, that's why I was talking about formation of organizations, because it's through those associations that then we are able to pass on, such information. So again, I will not go to Martin as an individual. I would go to KNVA, as an organization. So those were the channels that were being used, and so we're actually using the known channels. So if anyone was not in any sort of join an association and then make themselves known to us, and once we know them, then they're able to pass on such incentives. I mean, it becomes so much easier, even just for administrative purposes. So then, even if it's money that's being given out, it's not being given to, say, an individual account, it goes to the association's account, and then accounting for it then becomes easier. So I think that's just the bottom line. Be in an organization, form an association, and then let's move on from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for the artists out there, the thing is, what everyone is reiterating is that you need to be in association to be able to enjoy these benefits in as far as that they go. I guess there's a question here. Are there any exhibitions that bring artists together for them to showcase their wares? I think for both of you, are there any sort of showcases that bring artists from all over the country for them to be able to showcase their wares?
So at the museum we have.
Sorry.
Yeah. So the Museum of Kenya, let me speak on your behalf now. Yeah. So the Museum of Kenya hosts the it's yeah, they hold at least this year they tried doing two exhibitions, affordable art shows. Yeah, and this brings, I believe, even the artists from Uganda as well. But I've seen majorly encourages everyone to bring in their work, so artists are able even to send their work as parcels and they are received by the museum. Also, a while back we used to have Kenya Arts Fair, yeah, which has been down for a while, but it used to bring several galleries and individual artists who would have their own, spaces to exhibit. So, which it was a good avenue, but with times and challenges about having to organize, because it's not easy to organize art events, and especially dealing with artists. Artists are great people there, but when everyone has their own opinion, it becomes haywire. So
That's
they've
true.
been that, yeah, those have been happening. I know the government is also trying to have symposiums as well for artists, and probably they're doing their first run, I think, this year, yeah, for painting and I think sculptors and designers too. So it's also for the artists to figure out, and also because the museum is open, they post what's happening, and they believe they're one way to figure out what the government is doing for creatives. So also artists, single they shouldn't just wait for things to happen. So be on the lookout too. Yeah.
Right,
So yeah,
right.
and I can see there's an artist who was asking, as visual artists, they need what we need to know. They need to be part of their organizations, and I believe the reason why like the organizations were made, like the AVAC, for them it's more of like advocacy and other. They have a whole portfolio about what they want to do. So especially like even how we're talking about copyright of work, having to deal with if you're not paid, how do you follow up with that. So I believe all these organizations they have what's it called? They have in in their to-do list, yeah. So these things are considered. So it's just for artists to follow up with them as well. And I believe also artists to join them because as he's saying, numbers are key. So we can't just have 10 people and who will run the administration and you still need numbers. So artists are encouraged to join more and more. Yeah. So
Okay, thank you. Betty, is there anything you want to add?
Well, he spoke for me, but so yeah, we've had several different shows that have morphed over time to accommodate different sort of markets. So like the affordable art show, the main objective behind that was to capture the local normal mwananchi who ordinarily would not go out to buy art because we know it is expensive, but so then we bring you artwork from original artwork from the real artists that is quite affordable because I think most of them are going for 10,000 or less. So we actually saw a lot of sales. We've seen a lot of growth in that particular show, and it comes twice. So it used to come once a year, but this year we want to see if we can have it twice. We've already had one show, so the next one will come towards the end of the year. So again, those associations would be our key, entryway. So that's how the artists get to know that we have the affordable art show. Although we also put it out in our social media. So if anyone would want to know, when we are having the affordable art show next, they just log into our social media, mostly National Museums of Kenya. Then you're able to see what shows we are going to have. We used to have also the Kenya Arts Diary that was in association with the Heinrich Ball Foundation. Again, just to sort of bring in this local markets, Kenyans trying to, appreciating art and seeing what we have as a country for art. But sadly, it was laid off for now. So not unless you get a different sort of sponsor, that one is off of the radar for now. So and at the museum also we keep getting different artists. We actually have an artist every month to have the exhibition in the gallery. So, and again, we have a lot of traffic, human traffic. Going through the spaces. So if anyone would want to get known, that is one avenue that I would really advocate for, and it's very cheap. They can side the bar. we can tell them the
They can talk
prices.
to you on the side. Mm-hmm.
They can talk to me on the side. So
Okay.
yeah, various ways of doing this, and I'm sure if they approached us as a museum, we'd be able to advise them based on what kind of artwork they are doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Then for Andrew Kibet, you've heard. Betty has an open door policy. Showcases at the museum, so look out for that. I think we should be closing. So, final word, Martin. What anything for future artists? Anything that you want us to remember Martin Musyoka by? Is there any final words?
I'd like to say that we don't need the arts to survive, but a reason to. That's all I'd say.
Wow, that's intense.
Short,
Okay.
sweet, and concise.
Right. Betty.
So I just want to say that we are seeing a lot of products coming up in terms of art and culture interrelationship. We are seeing a lot of cultural tourism going on, homestays, farm tours. All those things are tied into culture and into art. So it's for us then to take that up, appreciate it, embrace it. That's how we're going to build our own. That's how we're going to build ourselves and enjoy, whatever that the country has to offer. If it is those cultural festivals, let's go for them. Go to Loyangalani and see how those people live and how their lifestyle is. Go to Lamu and get on a donkey. Just appreciate our own, because again we tend to embrace so much of the Western. We forget that we actually have a lot that we can garner from our own. So yeah, that will be my parting shot.
Okay. Let's not forget where we are from.
Exactly.
And Musyoka, what did you say? Art is? Let's not. What did you say? What was your big parting shot? Remind me again.
I say we don't need the arts to survive, but a reason to.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't need art to survive, but a reason to. Naftal, thank you for joining us again. We just asked, what are your parting shots? What are those wise words that you want to leave us with?
Yeah, art is a very potential economic industry once it is protected and promoted. We encourage the young creatives to continue going deep into their creative innovations as the government continue reorganizing the sector. So we encourage that, and we have to stick to art in order to record our cultural transformations in visual form. So art is really the spirit that we need to carry on with. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And for everyone out there who's been with us throughout this process, we have the artist social media pages. So for Martin, it's musyoka.martin on Instagram. For Facebook, it's Naftal Momanyi. The link for this entire thing entire talk will be on our pages, WFTO. So you can watch that later. So yeah, I'm seeing at the bottom of the screen, you can follow the artists that we had on here. And I guess for me, if there's nothing else from my artist and senior curator, I would like to thank everyone for joining us this morning. Thank you very much. The conversation was extremely engaging, and I personally got to learn a lot. And to all the future upcoming artists out there, you've had join an association. Don't forget your culture. Try and root your culture to your art as much as possible. But from me, Brenda Muikia and WFTO, want to thank you very much. And yeah, thank you very much.
What can you, we do? Unite to change, empower, lead, and innovate. Because fair trade matters.